Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Fran. In this channel, I share knowledge and practical techniques on trauma healing and everything about mental health. So in this video, I'm gonna still be talking about fear of abandonment. I'm gonna be introducing 4 signs that indicate that you have been triggered of abandonment anxiety because I think it's essential for us to be familiarized of this state of being triggered instead of being constantly identified of this uncontrollable state. Instead of constantly blaming ourselves for, well, you always do this, you always behave like this in relationships, we can start to offer ourselves more compassion and believe that we are capable of creating nourishing and healthy relationships. We're just temporarily in this state, which can be healed and cured. All right, let's jump right into it. The first sign is that you get this instant, powerful dose of negative emotions manifested as anxiety, shame, or anger. Maybe you're just waking up, getting your teeth brushed, and suddenly a thought hit you. And it says like, well, they're not really wanting to stick in your life. They are just trying to use you. And instantly, your emotions get triggered by this negative thought because you identified with it and you see it as truth. You're instantly going to be hit by those strong emotions. Usually it's a mix of multiple emotions like anxiety because you feel like, whoa, I'm going to lose them. I'm going to lose this connection. They're not really being there for me. And second, maybe shame because you feel like, well, this is who I am. Like, I don't get loved by people. I always get treated randomly, not seriously. And thirdly, you might be very angry with both yourself and the other person because you feel like, well, I knew I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have invited them because it makes them not taking me seriously. Or you're gonna be really pissed at other people. You may think like, well, they are a piece of garbage. They are not good friends to begin with. I shouldn't have even offered my compassion and my care towards them. You find yourself starting to space out and you get trapped with overwhelming intrusive thoughts. And this nagging awareness that something is wrong. You may find those emotions, those thoughts very familiar to you. And you may even find yourself saying this to yourself that, well, here it goes again. Because for people with abandonment anxiety, for people with abandonment trauma, like I myself, I have been practicing interpreting things this way for a very long time. Every tiny thing that slightly resembles the situation of being abandoned, of being not liked, of being rejected, is going to cause me to think that, well, the thing that I'm scared the most is happening again. And I know I'm this type of person who always attracts those things. I know I always get abandoned, I always get rejected or whatever. But we're getting sucked into this swirl of emotions and feelings which just enhance one another. It's incredibly painful because we feel like our whole energy gets devoted to fighting those thoughts, to fighting the state of being controlled. Because we find that no matter what we do, no matter how hard we're trying to distract ourselves, no matter how hard we're trying to stop those thoughts, nothing's gonna work. We feel extremely victimized and helpless because there's nothing we can do to change other people, to make them like us, to make them take us seriously. And on top of that, we cannot control ourselves. We cannot even stop our thoughts. We cannot even control our feelings. And those things scare us the most because, of course, from the original trauma, we have already suffered enough. Maybe our parents have already abandoned us. They left us feeling helpless and hopeless as a little child who got nobody to depend on. Or we get emotionally neglected or abused, which feels like abandonment because there's nothing we can do to make them value us, to make them love us, and provide the emotional support that we need, we crave as a child. So this incredibly painful emotions are exactly what we're trying to get away from. And our brain just gets used to being hypervigilant because it's trying to look for signs that trigger the same painful emotional state that we're trying to get away from. And there's this third sign that we start to see images, flashbacks, and we start to hear those nagging voices of some repetitive phrases or negative assumptions that, well, he never likes me. He never wants to be there for me. He's gonna leave. I knew this. In this hyper-emotional state, we really start to lose this ability of identifying what's in the reality and what's in the past. When we see those images, maybe this face that's hard to please, maybe this face, this cold and distant face, which can be incredibly convincing that this bad thing is really going to happen. And we start to really lose this ability to tell what's in the reality and what's in the past. Maybe that face, if you look closely, it might be your dad's, it might be your uncle's, it might be your grandpa's, or maybe your mom. But because we get sucked into this emotional state, we are too emotional to really sit down and analyze and really see the reality as it is, and then we're gonna believe it. We're gonna believe all of our negative predictions that something bad is going to happen. This abandonment is going to take place. Because we get swallowed into those negative thoughts, this can really intensify our negative emotions like anxiety and shame and anger, which just creates a cycle. The more angry, the more shameful, the more anxious we feel, we're gonna have more intrusive thoughts. We have more intrusive thoughts when we start to say this to ourselves that, well, since we're feeling so strongly, since we're feeling so anxious, it must mean that this is true. Things are really happening. Then we start to have this compulsive urge to act on those thoughts, which is the fourth sign, to avoid being abandoned. And then you start to say this to yourself, well, I should call them up to see if they're really abandoning me. I should do something to please them so that they don't forget about me. Well, I should really check in to see what his attitude is like. When we actually find the chance to act on the thoughts, we'll find that, well, at this point, what the other person says or does really don't matter because we're gonna believe what we believe anyways. Even though they tell us, even though they explain to us why they did this and why they behave in this way, we will still believe our original assumption that you are just finding excuses. Even though you said you don't want to leave me, well, I don't believe you because maybe in the future, when you get to know me more, you will want to leave. At the end of the cycle, regardless of what other people's true intentions are, we're still gonna stick to our original theory that they wanted to leave us. They are only here because they wanted to use us. Well, we're gonna end up alone by ourselves, which proves that the reason we're getting triggered is validated, which contributes to our vulnerability of being triggered over and over again. Alright everyone, I hope I explained this cycle well because I think it's going to be really helpful for you to be detached from being identified with the state of being triggered. And if you know yourself well, if you know that what state you're going to be triggered, what events really are most likely to trigger you, so that you can be more mentally prepared and come up with a solution that really helps you to stay in control even when you're being triggered. Alright everyone, I hope this video is helpful. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.